Before we actually start to texture the clothing, I want to spend a few more words about some extremely useful websites. Obviously, Substance Source is the official Substance website and has a lot of extremely good materials. The second, which I use quite a lot, is Texture.com, and you can download already made materials. You can see the icon S here for Substance. You can download the SBSR materials, which are ready for Substance Painter, or SBS material, which are Substance Designer material. And then there is also Quixel Megascan, which has excellent material. But most of the cases, Quixel Megascan gives you texture sets, so basically diffuse, roughness, normal, metalness maps that you need to reconvert into a material. I personally feel that for me the best choice is Texture.com, where I can find material that are already made to use in Substance Painter, which speed up quite a lot my workflow. You can download these materials and organize them into a folder, as I did here, and then in Substance you can go here and edit settings, and you can actually add your library here, and every time you download new materials, they're going to appear here under your materials in Substance Painter. And I personally found that this workflow for me works really well and is very useful. Now we can actually start texturing the fabric. Here I'm going to start to separate all the materials and organize into folders. They are already subdivided by texture sets, so my work is quite a lot easier. I'm going to start to drop some of the materials here. I have chosen this linen ruff, which I think could be quite a good choice for this character. I imagine that he's going to wear a very rough fabric. Being a peasant, he doesn't wear extremely sophisticated clothing. Something that you should think also about when you're creating a character. Think also about his story. Who is this character? And put appropriate materials and textures based on that. Here I'm checking again some of the baking, because I think that the thickness was not baked properly for some reasons. And here I switch to another option, which is going to give me a better bake. I'm testing different options. Sometimes the thickness is quite a tricky pass, and you need to try different settings for it. So based on that, I'm creating a sort of a scatter, which I'm going to use later on in look development to make this fabric really soft. So I'm going to add a little bit of SSS in the shader, a simple subsurface scattering. So I'm going to start to work on this first, and also this is going to help me quite a lot here texturing, because it's going to look much softer compared to looking at a really hard texture into Substance Painter. Here I'm adding again another fabric linen, also trying to differentiate the different pieces. It's always good to try different materials and see what they can give you. Here I'm changing the colors and testing little by little what is going to be good for me. At this first stage, I'm just intending to block out the main materials and the main colors. Always thinking also about the first concept and the reference textures. Now I'm going to start to move on other objects, and always keeping in mind my mood board. Here I'm just texturing these ropes with a same principle, doing a layer of scattering and a second layer where I can balance this scattering. In this layer, I'm going to add a mask where I can put the thickness map, and then adding this rope material. Here I'm changing the color and finding something that I like, and also rotating the texture until it looks correct. Next, I'm moving to these, which I call bubbles. From the reference, looks like they are made of really nice and smooth wood. Then I'm switching to this other flask, which I think is a water container. It's also made out of organic material, sort of a plant or a wood material. But I'm trying to give some variation, not to make look all the wood the same kind of material. Here I'm just changing some of the parameters and the age, which is going to start to give me different coloration, and working also on the roughness. Here are extremely nice reference images which I found on internet. As I say, the first pass, I'm just concerned about covering all the surface with the appropriate material, and then I'm going to go back and refine. Here again is another rope, and I'm following always the same steps. Trying the rope and applying the scattering, and finding which one is the good scaling that will look correct at the end. Now I'm going to start to work on the trousers, and I'm using a different kind of fabric, which is fabric tweed. As I say, you can see I'm trying different fabrics. It's always good to try how do they work on the actual object. And you can see me here trying different colors, and also switching different color space between sRGB and ACES-CG. Sometimes some of these older material, they don't have a proper color balance. In this case, I think this is quite a recent material and should work correctly in ACES-CG, but if you buy material that are a couple of years old, they may not work as a ACES-CG. So be always mindful of that. The best way to test it is just looking at the diffuse without any shading, and comparing the color of the preview with what you're seeing on your screen. And then you can gauge really if the texts are working correctly. Another thing that I use quite a lot, it's a shortcut, which is Ctrl-Alt, right-click. In that way, I can very easily tap and select one of the objects, and then with the Alt-Q, I can hide and unhide all the objects. In this way, I can move extremely fast from one object to the next. Here, I'm using again linear rough material, and I'm changing the color again, finding something that is going to break up the colors, and trying also different projections. Something that I do quite a lot when I do fabric, I'm adding some extra wrinkles with some tileable displacement. So now I'm going to import these resources, and I'm going to specify what they are. They are textures, and I'm going to find them under the project, and again reuse it. In this way I can add much more wrinkle details without the need to go back into ZBrush and sculpt more wrinkles. This is an extremely efficient and very good tileable texture, and you can see very quickly I can add a lot of sculptural detail that actually were never sculpted in ZBrush. it's a very flexible way of working, and I can add and remove extremely fast lots of details. This will make our character even more grumpy and not really a guy that take care of himself. You can see that his clothing is very wrinkly. Here I'm doing a mask where I'm mixing ambient occlusion with the wrinkles. So basically I'm multiplying the ambient occlusion. So in the more occluded areas you will get less and less wrinkles. Here I'm going to add another fabric wrinkle pattern with the same method. So importing resources, specify their name, texture, and they're here on the project. I'm going to import them and use this as a mask. Basically, I'm masking the height and I'm just moving a little fraction of height, usually 0.0102, very small amount of height. This will give me a lot more details in the height and in the normals, and then I can decide what I want to use. If I only want to use the normals, or sometimes I just add this into the displacement map. It's very important in Substance to be organized and name everything. Otherwise you can get lost very easily with all these layers. Now I'm going to import another mask, which I'm going to use in a completely different way. I'm basically creating a base color that is much darker and masking this color with this little dotted mask. So in this way I'm creating little darker dots present in this fabric. I do this quite a lot to just break up any surface. And then I do the opposite. I create a lighter material, just using the diffuse, and using the same mask, just changing the tiling and working with level and sharpness. So basically there are little brighter dots present in this fabric. It is very common to see these sort of little dots in a material that is quite rough, like this one, for example. The next layer I'm going to add this coloring layer, where I'm only working on the color and roughness and adding again a mask. Here I'm adding a curvature generator and starting to work tweaking this value. I'm basically trying to imply that this fabric is kind of old and consumed, so in the area they are more exposed, for sure is less colored and is losing some of the coloration. This is something that I use a lot when I want to imply that something is old and used. And then on top of that I multiply a grunge mask. This now is starting to look quite good. I think I'm going to add just another layer of dirt on top. Many times I use 2 layers to give the impression of discoloration or dirt, where one is much lighter and more spread and another is stronger and more defined. In this case I'm working with the dirt, and I'm just adding some sharpness and pretty much done with this. Another thing that I use quite a lot is a dripping rust generator. I'm essentially duplicating the dirt that I did before and just applying a different mask. I'm now applying the generator and just tweaking the spread, the contrast, and checking what really is going to work for me. I'm trying to create a sort of layer of dripping dirt. Here I'm changing and tweaking the colors. I have to say there is not really a magic formula when you're doing these things. It really depends on the object and the story that you want to tell. You have to really try to tweak and try different materials and different masks to get the result that you want. Here I'm adding a pattern to the pants. It's just a pattern from Substance Painter applied to an alpha, and just changing and experimenting with some colors. The alpha library of Substance Painter is quite amazing. Contains so many alphas that you can use to create these patterns, and you just really need to invest the time to experiment and use them, and use your taste and your judgment to see what is working for you in that situation. In this case I wanted to add flowers, but at the end they were looking way too heavy on the pants, and I just left the rhomboid pattern on top. Then I also add the same folds that I had before to the jacket. More or less all the fabric will get a very similar treatment, so I start with a fabric material, working on the scatter, then adding folds, continuing with some patterns if necessary, and then usually discoloring the material, and on top of everything adding some dirt and dust. Usually this is a procedure that I'm using for most of these clothing pieces. I'm back on the belt now, and as well I decided to try some patterns. I just recycle things that I used before on the shirt, and just copying and paste and reusing them. I turn off the layer one by one, starting from bottom to top. And here in this case you can see I'm adding a pattern with these flowers. This as well is an alpha, is a procedural alpha provided by Substance Painter. I'm trying different combination and different color to see what is going to work. I want to create a really light pattern that is not going to attract too much attention, but at the same time is adding some little decoration to the clothing of this guy, otherwise just very flat. Here I'm moving back again to this flask where I already applied some wood material, and I'm trying to give some differentiation in the roughness and also in the diffuse colors, so it's not everything looking like the same. It's really a matter of tweaking very patiently the colors until you find something that you think is working for you. Next step, I'm going to add this sort of dirt on top, adding a new fill and working on the roughness, and then a mask with another generator. Usually I use a dirt generator or some smart masks. Here I'm looking for the good mask, and at the end I settle down for the dirt generator, which can give me extremely fast, very good results. Tweaking the balance, the intensity and the contrast, and it's looking already very good. And then I do another layer of dirt on top, giving different characteristics and a slightly different color. This is going to be more brown and wet. I'm using a grunge mask and working on top of that with levels and sharpening. And then a cloud, which is extremely useful for breaking up patterns. Now some of the final touches I'm just going to do with a simple paint. Sometimes I found that it's much faster, at least for me, just to add a paint layer and break up the texture even more rather than spending a lot of time trying to find the perfect combination with procedural maps. Now I'm going to start to work on the backpack and starting in order, one texture set at a time. I'm going to use this bronze smart material for these belts. I'm going to start as always from the bottom at the base and start to tweak all the parameters. And I'm going to start to check the masks one by one. The edge damage. As you can see, this is a quite small object, so it doesn't need really a lot of work, but just good enough. I want to make it look like it's not that new and shiny. So I'm going to start to work on the edges and see how the mask can work for me. Now I'm going to start to add grunge mask with the scratches and changing the scaling until fit my object. After that I'm going to add some sharpening, and on top of that our loved dust. So dust is going to make this surface look a lot rougher and more consumed and old. As you can see immediately, the look of this is going to change quite drastically, just with this one dust layer. I'm tweaking the balance and the global contrast. I'm picking a color that fits better with this brass metal. I'm going to start to work on this carpet now. I'm starting to add the first material, which is a wicker material. And I'm going to start to tweak the colors first, as always, and working on the size as well. I'm feeling that the normal or the height map is extremely strong, and I'm going to tweak it, checking the normal channel first and then to the height, and I found out that really it was very strong, and I reduced it to 15%. Now I'm still trying to find the good balance in the tiling X and Y, and constantly looking at reference. It's very important to look always at the correct reference, I think, and not to get lost in too much technical details. Here I just put all this material into one folder, and it is really important always separate each material in a different folder, and that's because I'm going to add masks into this folder to separate the material. Here I'm adding a fabric felt, and I'm going to put again into another folder, and then I'm going to add a mask. This is going to separate these two different materials onto this object. Here I'm just selecting the polygons and revealing this part with the mask. What cannot be done with the polygon fill is going to be finished just with a paintbrush. One important thing as well when you split this sort of material is that the normal that belong to one material that is underneath should affect the material that is on top. And how do we do this? First of all, we create two distinct material in two different folders, which we are going to mask, and then we're going to switch on the top material and making sure to check the channel of the height and the channel of the normals, And here make sure that you switch this from pass-through to normal. In this way you're going to be able to fix the problem. Here I'm just finalizing the mask, and I'm pretty much done with this. Now I'm going to start to work on this main basket piece, and this is subdivided in 3 different IDs. So the first thing I'm going to do is creating 3 folders, adding a mask and selecting this by ID. In this way I'm going to split very fast and easily the 3 different materials. Then I'm going to start to work on this paper cardboard material, working on the color first, working on some cardboard grain and roughness, and then some intensity. Also going down to the structure density and the structure color intensity. Here I'm evaluating the color until I'm really happy with the result. Then I'm adding some scattering. Now I'm adding a black mask to the scattering, and I'm searching for the thickness mask. And I'm going to tweak this until I'm happy. I think this is pretty good for now. So I'm creating another fill, and I'm creating an edge mask. See, I'm adding some discoloration to the edges. I'm going to add a fill as always, and then inside the fill I'm going to put a smart mask. This is going to create these soft edges, which are going to recolor with a slightly brighter color. Then I'm going to add again another edge, but this will be a more scratched and broken up edges. So I'm basically adding 2 different layers. One is softer and the other has more scratchy marks. I'm then going to add little darker spots with the help of a mask again, and then switching to the next object. Now I'm starting to work on the top part of the fabric, but I decided to make it sort of a more leathery material. And again, putting this into a folder and selecting the ID mask. Here now I'm going to start to tweak the material and add these scattering layers. So in the second scatter I can add the thickness map. You can see that this is going to work really nicely to show that the light is passing through the object and scattering under the skin. I'm trying different kind of leathers, and I think in a bit I'm going to add a damaged layer on top. This is a layer of weathering, which should work extremely well. It's a smart material that comes with Substance. It's adding already a really good layer of complexity. On top of that, I'm going to add a damaged layer. I'm getting rid of all the parts and the elements that I don't need. I'm just using this damage. And you can see that it's working really well. I'm just going to tweak a bit this damage layer. Now I'm going to add one of my favorite. This is this generator that create dripping rust. And in this case I'm using more like traces of discoloration from water and rain. So I'm changing the color and the roughness to see what is going to work for me. Also I'm adding a sharpening filter, which is going to sharpen quite a lot the details. I changed the color to a much lighter color now. So this looks more like a discoloration from water and rain. At the moment it's quite strong, and I'm going to reduce the intensity. Now I'm going to start to work on the wood part of this umbrella. I'm just using this material, wood maple, and trying to adapt the tiling and the color to what I think is working for me. I'm also rotating the texture and doing some offset. After that, I'm just putting a little layer of dirt on top and some dust. Many times I just reuse masks that I use on other pieces of the project, so this is going to get really faster and faster when you see that some layer of dirt or dust are working pretty well for your scene. It's just a matter of copying and pasting them and retweaking some of the parameters. That's basically all I'm doing here. Now I'm going to start to work on a few more wooden pieces, sort of recycling again the same wood material. As always, very important, separate each material in a different folder and then apply a mask to that folder. In this way is really easy and well organized, the separation by objects and material. Here I'm just using actually the same dirt that I used before and the same two layers of dirt. And changing the scaling and the tiling. Next I'm going to go on this other sort of a flask and probably water container or sake container, we don't know. Our cat is a traveler and for sure he loves to drink a bit along the way. So to this one I'm going to try to give slightly different color, but it's basically the same material that I used before. I'm just tweaking again the dirt and dust on top. You will see me changing many times the tiling, and I'm going to change also a few times the color until I'm happy. Here I'm going to start to work on this pin roll, and as always I'm going to create a folder and masking this folder by ID and then adding this material. In this case is wood edged. I really want to get the feeling that this is a different kind of wood and is much more consumed and old. So I'm starting to play with the tiling and some of the color, increasing also the edge in the material. Then I'm adding a second material on top. And on this second material I'm going to change the tiling and the roughness and trying to edge the material a lot. So adding quite a lot of this coloring to this one. Now I'm also working on the height and lowering down the intensity quite a bit. It's going to be smooth since I've been working for so many years. Then I'm going to add another layer which affects only color, and I'm going to make it a really pale color. On this I'm going to add a mask now, and in this fill a grunge. This grunge is a grunge that I use quite a lot, and I'm going to tile it in a different way. You can see how it's now taking shape already, and looking at really closely at the reference, I'm trying to repeat what I see. I'm adding a second grunge on top, and I'm going to put this in add. So I'm adding one mask on top of the other. Then I'm going to put some darker spots. So it's a darker material, and then a new mask. And this mask with another grunge with the little spots. Then I'm going to add another mask on top, and I'm basically changing the same mask, so changing tiling and size of these spots. Then I'm adding some edges to imply that this is a really consumed material. In this mask now I'm putting a generator, a curvature generator, and I'm adding a lighter color in these areas so that really look used and consumed on the edges. Now I'm going to work on the main wood, and I'm separating the bottom part of the wood compared to the rest, because the direction of the wood detail is going in a different angle. It's basically 90 degrees separation. And again, I'm separating by folders and a mask in the folder. Here I'm starting to add another layer so that this is going to look painted on top, and adding a mask. The peel paint is one of the best and work extremely well for painted materials. It could be applied to wood and could be applied also to old cars and painted metal. I want to give the feeling of this wood that has been painted and repainted multiple times. I actually got this idea looking really closely to the reference that I gathered before. And I really noticed that it's not just bare wood, but it's a wood that has a sort of a bluish layer on top. So I thought that would be a really nice touch instead of having everything looking this brownish uniform color everywhere. And actually is making my prop much more alive, I think, and more interesting. So basically I'm adding one layer of red paint, and then it's going to be another layer of bluish paint. So I think that the bluish paint is going to be probably the oldest one, and really old and discolored and very rough. And then there is a sort of a new layer, which is the red, which is still consumed, but is kind of newer. And on top of that, I'm going to add some more discoloration and ruined parts, so in that way we can see the wood showing through the broken parts. As you can see in the references, this is sort of bluish, almost purple color mixed with red. Probably this has been painted multiple times over the years. And that as well is going to add a little story to the prop. Yeah, I'm checking the masks and tweaking and changing different types of mask. Here I'm looking for a generator, and it's the curvature generator. So this curvature generator is going to give me the consumed aspect at the edges of the object. And I'm kind of trying different combination until I found the one that worked for me. Here, last minute, I decided to add some little marks to this prop. So I imagine that this guy is a traveler and he want to put his name on top of his little property here, his backpack. So I went on Google and searched how to write in hiragana the name Takeshi. And I tried to do my best to show off my knowledge of hiragana. Here I hope that a lot of Japanese people watching this video is not going to be really mad at me, but I tried my best. Here now I'm adding anchor points to the mask, which are extremely useful. So you're adding anchor points, and then you link these to the dust mask. So all you need to do, you go in the dirt mask and then switch to true micro height and micro normals. And here you need to search for your anchor point, and then it's going to use the mask that is below. So the dust now is going to interact with the bottom layer. And also the normals and the height are going to interact with it. Here now I'm trying to apply the same principle to this flask, which I imagine will be filled with sake. And I found a really nice logo that means actually sake. And now I'm going to import this resource here as a mask. Here's my alpha, and I'm going to drag and drop as a mask. I'm copying this mask into my layer, and I'm placing it just using regular scaling and placing tools in Substance. When happy with the placement, and now I'm just going to create an anchor point again and linking this again to the dirt. So searching for the anchor point and linking that again to micro height and micro normals, and start to tweak levels until I like what I'm seeing. I need to increase the resolution here because otherwise I don't see clearly what's happening. And I'm continuing to tweak all the parameters here, going into the micro details and playing with the curvature intensity, height intensity, ambient occlusion, and all the parameters until this is starting to work for me. I thought that this could be a really nice little touch to this character and prop. Now I'm trying to break up this logo so that it looks much older, and I just put a grunge map in multiply, working with the intensity and the levels until I'm happy. Here you can see that this needs quite some tweaking, and in a bit I'm going to add also a paint layer, which is going to be really helpful to break up this logo so that it really look consumed. Here I'm adding the paint, and I'm going to go with a sort of a dirt brush so that this makes much more broken up and old and scratched. Yeah, I'm testing on and off until I found a good balance. Now this is really start to look old and eroded by time and lots of scratches. Here just a bit more tweaking, and I think I'm quite happy with this little addition, trying to give even more story and character to this prop. And that's where we are with the backpack. Is pretty much finished. I just added a Material Effects water drop on top. I imagine that our frog is going to live in a quite wet environment, and I think that this is going to add an extra layer of complexity on top. So in the next chapter we are going to start look development for this character. See you there.